national security asked. So the difference between October last year and May this year in the lower parts of the Mirrabad Valley speak louder than any words possibly could. I note that Australia, and indeed the Minister's words, is committed to a metrics-based, command-judged drawdown, valley by valley, patrol base by patrol base. To this it has the overwhelming support of the Coalition. As so many nations flocked to withdraw forces and announce force withdrawals on the back of the US announcement, I applaud the Minister for holding his nerve and not making a political announcement, but sticking to the very sensible approach of a metrics-based, command-judged drawdown. You have the overwhelming Coalition support on a sensible approach to withdrawal of troops as we move towards 2014. I note that of the over 25 patrol bases, forward operating bases out there in the valley, that at least half are manned solely by the Afghan National Army, proving the Minister's point that we are already beginning to do a drawdown in terms of valley by valley, patrol base by patrol base, with some oversight by MTS forces. It is our expectation, Minister, that as we move to actual withdrawal of combat troops from the theatre, that the Coalition would be informed of the metrics-based, command-judged approach to that withdrawal as it happens. I take on face value the Minister's statement that our drawdown is on track towards 2014. I also acknowledge the Minister's statement that post-drawdown we will continue to have a degree of overwatch forces in place that may include elements such as special forces, training components and reconstruction components. I thank the Minister for his update on the mentoring task force as Lieutenant Colonel Darren Huxley, a classmate of mine, withdrew the 5th Battalion, the Royal Australian Regiment, to be replaced by Lieutenant Colonel Christopher Smith with the 2nd Battalion. I note the great work of the 5th Battalion. Over 2,500 patrols, 100 contacts by elements of the MTF, over 100 IEDs found and 380 weapon and cache locations discovered. One of the most successful winter operations ever conducted by Australian forces within the combat area. And I thank and give praise and credit to Lieutenant Colonel Darren Huxley for the great work he and his battalion did in trying and difficult circumstances. I welcome the rotation of the 2nd Battalion, the Royal Australian Regiment, under Lieutenant Colonel Smith with MTF 3. Colonel Smith, you are going into a hard fight. The fighting season is well and truly upon you, as the SOTG and other elements have worn so harshly over the preceding or the last few months. It is necessary that we continue the hard work with the mentoring the Afghan National Forces in support of the kinetic, disrupting and dismantling work of special operations to drive home the peace that we currently hold on to. The Provincial Reconstruction Team has now grown to over 189 staff, ably led by a great Australian. With funding increased to over $30 million this financial year, on top of the over $100 million for the wider Afghanistan from the Australian budget, is already making a significant difference. Especially when I landed in Muzazi base with Colonel Crichton, the head of the PRT, also on the same helicopter, jumped off to travel with some local Afghans to look at a bridge that needed to be fixed in the area. It just goes to show the work of the provincial reconstruction, the civilian and the military teams working together. I continue to praise the work of the Special Operations Task Group, commanded by another colonel colleague of mine who actually took over my platoon at the 3rd Battalion, the Royal Australian Regiment, who is doing a tremendous work, leading his men incredibly well. They are the 3rd largest Special Forces work, and their work with training the Provincial Response Company of the AMP is proving of enormous benefit. I again reiterate to the Minister that a political cap of 1,550 people should be able to be flexible, and that the commander should be able to use their judgment to use wider forces within the MEO to affect commander judgment and effects on the ground. As we head into a difficult fighting season, I wish the men and women, all of whom fight within the Middle East area of operations, the best of luck. They enjoy our thoughts and enjoy our prayers. As the 2nd Battalion takes over the mentoring task force and the bulk of the Special Operations Task Group is comprised of the 2nd Commando Regiment based on 4 RAR, what we now have is ostensibly the old 2nd 4th Battalion back in operations again, this time in separate MTF and SOTG forces. The Coalition wishes them the very best. We will monitor their progress with great interest. We will support them to the hilt, and we will continue to offer bipartisan support to the government to ensure our fighting men and women have everything they need to effect victory within Afghanistan.